Welcome to the Go Tiny Showcase, and I'm Lindsay Wood, the Tiny Home Lady. We are here because we set off this summer on a journey to a bunch of shows. This is our 11th show of 2022. Earlier in the summer, I think it was in March of earlier this year, we wanted to go off, and what was happening during the time of summer, all the gas prices were like going crazy. So we thought, you know, it's a lot of money to go out to Colorado just to bring our academy. I'm still fleshing it out and getting it launched and everything. So I offered to go out with a number of other companies with me. And because each of these companies offers something to the industry, but they didn't want to necessarily go and have their own booth, right? Like for example, very first one. So we'll start walking through here. This is a walkthrough. When the crowds come, they'll be lined up to go into the Wilderness through the Go Tiny Showcase. They'll be doing the spinner wheel, putting their name down, which you don't have to because you're already winners here. So starting with Tiny Freedom, my husband is all about building wealth beyond the tiny home. This is where you're protecting your assets. I can't tell you how many people I've met that do not have a will and trust. Anyone not have a will and trust? You have one? Do you guys have one? Good. Okay, you guys have one, right? Yes, good. Then we have the Nature Loo. This is a company out of Australia, full composting toilet. So these are selling like crazy down in Australia, where you can actually go and have this unit outside. So this kind of emulates, this is inside the tiny home, and this is out underneath the tiny home. What's cool is you've got the leaching line and then the venting line, and everything happens inside here. But what I really love about it is that you really never see such a sexy looking compost toilet, right?
Most of them are plastic,
It does all the things, and it also looks beautiful.
Yeah.
All right, moving right along. Now, one thing that I really recommend as you go and talk to your builders, radiant floor heating. I do a number of rants online when I'm sitting there at my desk, and the mini split is where? Up there.
Yeah.
What does hot air do?
Rises.
It only rises, right? And so if it rises from the floor, I like to say you keep your body warm from your tiny toes to your nose.
I like that.
And so they say a mini split is super efficient, but is it effective? Right? If my feet are cold, it's not very effective. It may be efficient, but it's not as effective. So oftentimes you're putting on fans to kind of like move the air down. What's really nice, you're gonna find with like radiant floor heating, you're gonna have even heating the entire way up. And with a tiny home, just look at this one, it only needs 40% of coverage. You're not putting it under the cupboards, under a couch. You're only doing it where your feet walk. Well, there's not a lot of space, like up there in the Wilderness, there's only a certain amount. But you would have to be telling your builders about this, because most likely it's not going to be a standard. Think around, with that kind of square foot of a 200, you're looking at about $2,500 in cost. But if you can imagine how nice that feels all the time in cold environments to come up from your feet up. But because these are homes that are built from scratch, this is the moment that you want to know about it versus homes you move into. That's why a majority of our homes don't have radiant floor heating. It's really only been known as the wealthy homes have that. And usually they're hydronic water systems under tile. But here we are, it's just electric. It's a little plate. It's a little knockout on the subfloor, right where the electric, and then there's only, in this one you can see these little black parts. Those are those little connectors at the end. And that installation is super easy. No, fans blowing dust and all that if you've got allergies, you name it. Okay, anyone want a little yellow bag? Take a bag for future materials. This is a really good quality on-demand hot water system that is efficient. It doesn't have any pilot light, which is amazing. A couple that was actually in the marine world, like sailors, decided they really did not like their systems that were available, and it always ran out of hot water and all kinds of stuff. So they went and created their own, and now they're largely used in the tiny home world. And it's super important. There is a certification for on-demand hot water systems for movable homes. So you've got to make sure your builder's putting in the right one. We put in the wrong one in our tiny home. Because our builder went out of business, we had to learn the hard way not to do that right. So, on to, you guys can keep thumbing through. So we now have the Univix. Anyone wanting to do solar? Solar, solar, solar. Okay. Okay, this is the coolest thing. For 2 years, I sold solar systems, but I talked about lithium batteries. We all have them in our phones. Lithium is kind of the new thing where, you know, you get more power, lighter the weight, all those things. However, there's some key things. They're very expensive. They're not recyclable, and unfortunately, this is the worst one, the kids in the mines that are getting the cobalt are not in any kind of safe practices. A lot of deaths happen. The cool thing about the carbon battery, which is a spin-off from the lead acid, they were able to figure out how to not have sulfur stick on the plate. So no longer do they have, you don't have to add water to it, there's no maintenance. Half the price of lithium, 100% recyclable, and no kids in mines in cobalt in Africa. The fact that it's half the price, let's go back to that part. A system in lithium would probably be somewhere in the 10 to 12,000, in the carbon batteries in the 5 to 6. The only bummer is that it's a little bit more weight than the lithium battery. So, you know, but if you're, you know, we're not talking, you got a big 1 ton towing your home around, like you might consider weight and how much weight would add to your home if you wanted to solarize. Yeah. And I know these guys have done a system. These homes are being built in Bosnia, and the last one they just built did have solar on it. But you have to weigh the, you know, the pricing and the weight. If it ends up adding like 500 more pounds, and it's not a big deal because you're already towing like 10,000 or something, then, you know, what's the big deal? All right, moving along to Mac Insurance. This is really great because we use them for our insurance. We pay about $1,400 a year on a $100,000 value home. So they cover personal belonging, theft, fire, trip endorsement, any kind of belonging coverage, all that stuff they cover. And those are really great because it's important. Obviously, you want to definitely insure your home. And you want to make sure that home is insured before it leaves the builder. Because even though the transporter is going to take it, and they're going to largely be able to cover it on the road, the second it lands somewhere, you want that thing covered, right? So you want to be thinking about that. It's very exciting. Oh, we're getting our tiny home. You want to like reach out and say, hey, what's the price? And I do have some flyers. I think they're over on the other table. The Tiny Home Industry Association is something I've been involved with for a number of years. I'm on the board, and it's all about advocating to get these tiny homes legalized around the country. So this is our home in San Diego right now. It's making $2,000 a month. It's giving someone a place to live in an area that's multi-million-dollar neighborhood. There's no one that could ever live for $2,000. There's no mortgage. There's no rent available in that area. But there's our home, beautiful sunset views, the whole thing. And the only thing is that it's in an area where it's not permitted or allowed. So we can work on the county, and it is something that we're working on getting legalized. So this is the organization that's largely doing that. And then there's the Go Tiny Academy. I put all of this that I know in a 6-part series, training videos, and then we also meet weekly for Zoom calls. That's the VIP package. And Meg and Frank signed up in Pleasanton, so you're here. Why not share them?
I was just going to say, I'm going to step forward and endorse this. I mean, for what we paid in, she is working her butt off to get you information, to keep you updated. Whenever anything happens with Thea, whenever anything happens that in a county that they're working on, she lets you know. She's got Zoom calls. I mean, twice a week for a while you were doing them. You know, she redid her material while we were there. I mean, it's not just here's my study thing, go away, you know, call me if you have a question.
She's involved.
She is there all the time, you know, sending you text, sending you email. We're live now. We're doing, you know, some talking real estate. So, I mean, honestly, I've told my husband, you know, multiple times, we got our money.
Aww,
totally.
Thanks, you guys.